Thanks, Carl. So my name's Colin McClure, and I work for an outfit out of Livingston and called the Western Sustainability Exchange. And we have a host of regenerative agricultural tools. And so there's a couple of different products that we're kind of working on right now to kind of help folks that are just doing things just like Leo's doing. And so I will get my screen shared here. Got a little presentation for you. Can you see that okay?
Looks good.
Cool. Let me see if I can find the present button. There it is. Oh, hang on 1 second. There it is. Cool. So this is what we're calling the Regenerative Ranch Legacy Toolbox. It consists of two different products. We have the Regenerative Ranch Assessment, is what we're calling it, and then also a dashboard tool. So what the Regenerative Ranch Assessment is effectively it's a tool to compare intra and inter-ranch communication, I guess. And so you can have we're kind of like trying to figure out where the ranch is headed, where folks, like different employees, how they're feeling about what's going on at the ranch, and like what different practices we're trying to implement, that kind of thing. And so we wanted to know kind of how folks were viewing the direction they were going and how they know once they've achieved kind of a more regenerative ranch approach. And so there's 5 kind of regenerative principles that we're pushing here, mainly just to keep cover on the ground all year round, minimize soil disturbance, keep the roots living and robust, and then increase and maintain biodiversity, and then also to integrate grazing animals, that being the big key component of the assessment. So just kind of, I'm going to fly through this here, but there's 8 management buckets that we're kind of chasing after, everything from economics to soil to grazing, livestock, biodiversity, the people as well, the land. And then once we've taken that, and then we combine that with a ranch, and now we're at our regenerative ranch assessment. And so this kind of pulls up a whole host of questions we have, and it's an online format. So it kind of just takes you through kind of finances, and then succession planning, and then you get into kind of grazing plans and kind of even like a grazing philosophy, that kind of thing. And then what it does is it pops out a report. And so we have a couple of different reports that are available. The flash report is just an automated one that's generated after you take the assessment, and it'll put out kind of an overview and kind of give you kind of where you're strong at, where you could use a little more focus. And then the idea behind that is after you've taken the ranch assessment, then you can kind of say, okay, well, I'm a little deficient in the soil portion of the assessment. Maybe I need to take some classes on some soil rejuvenating, or something like that, or maybe take a Nicole Masters class, or something like that. And so that's kind of what it pops out as. And then and then we have a whole host of, or a whole library of resources that we can kind of direct you towards. So that's like kind of where the value is that we bring to it, is once you have the results of the assessment, then you can go ahead and we can kind of cater to whatever you need. So then it kind of we created the assessment tool, and then we kind of thought, well, okay, that's great and all, but what about managing all of this data that we're collecting and all this knowledge, and then how do we disseminate that information, and then how are we going to organize that? And so kind of like what Leo was talking about with the way that Vents will keep an online tool to move the cattle and kind of do that thing. What we've done is we've created a map-based dashboard tool. And so we're calling the dashboard, and we're calling it, we're kind of still working on a name. So if anybody has any creative names, we're either going to call it the Scout or the Land Health Dashboard, but Land Health is kind of boring. So anyway, But the purpose of it is just to provide ranchers with access to scientific information they need and have requested to make future grazing land management decisions based on solid, relevant data. So effectively, it would be something you would open up every so often, however often you need to pull up whatever type of data that we have presented, whether it be soil data or, and we'll kind of get into that here in a second. But the way it started, we had a science advisory council that was a group of ranchers, scientists, and some of the community folks, and they kind of arose like there's a couple of different tools out there right now, like Pasture Map and Maya, but there's a lot of folks are using those. They're either way too complex and they're like, this is all a bunch of stuff that I don't need, or it's not exactly, it doesn't really handle the land health portion of what they're trying to do as a regenerative ranch. And so that's kind of where we took these and okay, these are the criteria that we're kind of chasing after. Everything from weather conditions to soil data, carbon levels, which is a big part of our bread and butter, is taking carbon and turning that into carbon credits and connecting folks with carbon credits there. And then we do also cover, and then infiltration rates, grazing data, and then also biological and ecological data that could maybe eventually roll into some sort of like ecosystem services trading credit as well. And so, as I said before, that we found there's really no effective and practical way to visualize this data. And I mean, we can only do so much with a spreadsheet. And so with that said, we proposed the solution of the grazing management dashboard. And so really we broke it up into categories. We have the different physical features. We have like the grazing data, and then what you have done in the past, and then what you plan to do in the future. So it's kind of it's a historical tool to kind of look back, and then also as a future planning tool. And then we can also, oops, hang on 1 second here. But then you can also manage different ecological parameters and see trends in that data as well. And the biggest thing here is, I kind of talked about the need already, but there's a certain type of rancher that we're kind of chasing after. It's somebody that's a little more ecologically and regeneratively minded, and it's just the people that are just excited about regenerative practices and doing things differently, and maybe not better, maybe just different. And so that's kind of where we're headed with the rancher portion. And what we've done is we've partnered with the Yellowstone Ecological Research Center out of Livingston, and they're kind of the tool development portion of it and the data management. And then we tackle the rancher recruitment and training, and then the data acquisition, database management, relationship management, and the technical assistance. So I had some cool visualizations of the actual tool. Let me see if I can find it. So yeah, so here's kind of what the tool is going to look like. It's still kind of in beta testing form, and we had kind of some issues, and we're trying to sort those out right now. But this is effectively what it'll be. You'll have kind of visualizations here where you could see soil data or grazing trends or how long you were in a field or all sorts of things. You'd have weather up here, and then this would be the kind of shapefile map of your ranch, and then they'll be color coded. So green's a good pasture to go into. It's like got a lot of had plenty of rest over the last year or a few years, and then maybe red is a place you should avoid, that kind of thing. So yeah, that's about all I have. This is kind of, there's more data or another visual here, but yeah, I guess I'll open it up for questions there.
Yeah, thanks, Colin. Any questions for Colin? I'll leave a moment there.
Is the bare ground versus litter versus covered, is that picking that out from the GIS, the imagery, or is that something they've select and flag?
Yeah, so there's a couple of different ways we're doing it. We're taking samples actually out in the field. So we'll take a Doppelmayr square and then throw that out there, and then make an ocular estimate of the cover data, and then we also compare that to the rangelands.app platform, and we'll have that pulled in as well. So we'll have historical ground cover data going back to, I can't remember how long ago, it was 1980s maybe that they operate there. So yeah.
Second, on the carbon credits that you're talking about, are you documenting the increase in carbon capture, like from change in practices and hoping to offset credits or sell credits there, or is it the total carbon capture of the soil and the land?
Yep. So what we do is we're partnered with an outfit named Native Energy. They're out of Vermont. They're kind of the carbon brokerage team. And then we're working on our verification through the Vera standard, which is the actual platform we trade carbon credits on. And so what we do is we go out and calculate a baseline soil. Actually, you can see this is actual soil sample location here with the blue dot. And what we go out and we get a baseline of soil carbon in tons per acre. And then what we do is we'll go back in 3 years and then 5 years and 10 years. And then it's just based on accruals and additionality. So there's a couple of different ways we set up payments for that. There's like a help build, which is a payment up front to help with infrastructure, like moving water and that kind of thing. And then fences and temporary fences and permanent, semi-permanent, that kind of thing. And then they're also paid, the ranchers are also paid in additionality as well. So whatever they sequester at the end of those allotted times. And there's no penalty of if, say you have a really bad year and then your carbon levels go down. It's not like you can't get, penalized for that.
So Colin, what's the process to participate in program?
Well, give me a call, Leo. We'll get you signed up. We'll get you started. We have an intake form, so we just kind of need shape files and that kind of thing. And then once we're with the dashboard tool, the regenerative ranch assessment is ready to rock and roll. Anyone can take it. And there's we're still kind of structuring how we have a more complex report that will go out. That'll be kind of a fee for service model for that. But the flash report, anyone can get on our website, find the assessment and take that. And it's a very valuable tool. And I'd recommend you guys all trying it out and giving us any feedback on it you have. But as far as the dashboard tool is going, we are currently in the second stage of our beta testing. So we have 4 ranches right now that we're have signed up that we're going through those trials, and we should have that second round of beta testing done in the first part of January, we're hoping. And then we'll fix any bugs and anything, and then we'll probably be ready to rock and roll next spring to pull more people in. But in the meantime, if you want to get in we're kind of like preloading grazing data and to be able to put into the dashboard. So we could have a conversation about that and get that data all set up. So then when the dashboard is live, we can just plug it in and play with it and get ready to rock and roll. So.
Okay. Thank you. Very good.
You bet. And actually, Leo, we had a couple conversations with the Vents guys. I can't remember the gentleman's name off the top of my head right now, but their heat maps that they use for those or for your cattle, we're trying to work with them to incorporate that into the dashboard tool, so you can kind of see when you pull up the dashboard, then you can see your collars and where they're at and how they've see where your hot spots are and use it as a more aggressive planning tool that way. So.
Well, that's good to hear. I'd hoped to demonstrate some of them, but I couldn't get the technology to work.
Yeah, it was super cool. That's a sweet program you're running. So.
Yeah, the irony on the tech showcase, we can't get the tech to work. Dang it.
Isn't that the way the world works, though?
Yeah. Well, thanks, Colin. I have a question. So also maybe sort of to Leo's question, they're following that on. If you're already talking to the Vance folks, but how about the other data? Are there opportunities where in other situations you could just plug in potential sensors or other data being collected out there through various means, and then that could add to the robustness of decision making this rangeland? Is that ultimately the idea?
Absolutely, yeah. And so realistically, what this is just the platform with which we can visualize the data. So we could pull in, sage grouse leks, and we could have location data for that. We could pull in anything you're monitoring, like maybe you have some CRP that you pulled in on your ranch and you want to monitor that to see, like, see if that's getting bigger, or if, the world's your oyster really. And we have, like, right now we're paying attention to grazing data and then soil carbon data, because those are the two things that we're actively taking data on. But with that said, we have an Airtable account that's very flexible and very malleable, that we can kind of cater it to however we want to view this data. So it's pretty cool. And we've we've had conversations with PastureMap and Maya, and to see if they wanted to partner up, but because they're in their own worlds, we haven't been able to convince them that that's what we need to do. So anyway,
I've got a couple of questions, but anybody else out there burning questions? I think we could open it up to Leo, Ford, or Colin now. Any questions for anybody on the presentations? Not hearing any. Just to all three of you, just to quickly sort of, I think I discussed this with all three of you in a sense that one of the motivations of this conversation was really ask a question about, in my mind, is there a role in technology to support regenerative ag practices? And I think from all your presentations, the answer is yes. But is there a way that really you could see it increasing your ability to do the things you're trying to do? So it's not just incremental in a sense, like this is going to take off once you have the ability to really measure, look, watch, and learn about the places that you're managing and that you're ranching on. Is that a good assumption? And maybe share a little bit about your thought on that kind of approach. Like, will technology change how we ranch and farm because of the ability to know more in detail? Ford, you're kind of looking a little ready to go. No?
I mean, I think it definitely will. It's funny, we had this conversation with a ranch consultant that we do some work with, and he's convinced you're still going to need well-trained humans out there being able to look at the land and figure things out. But no, I think all of these tools will help and technology will help, but it might not fully replace a really good rancher or a really good farmer.
Definitely, I would echo that, Ford, definitely, because like my dad always used to say, the best fertilizer for a farmer's field is a farmer's footsteps. So I think we're definitely not going to be that far separated. However, I think all the tools we mentioned today have incredible capabilities down the road once we get our dashboard tool and the regenerative assessment off the ground and we get it in more people's hands. I think it's just going to explode. I think we're not be able to keep up with demand. So we're trying to figure out how to scale appropriately when the time comes. So
this is Leo. I would agree with both of your assessments, but I don't think we're talking about replacing the rancher or the manager here. I think we're just talking about helping him do a tremendously better job because he has the tools to make better decisions. I'm near the end of my career, and what I need is, the next generation to have access to these kinds of tools to build on what's been done. And that's the way I look at it, that, the vents, I've made presentations, and the vents technology really excites the young people that are in their 30s on these established, mature ranches. And that's what we need, is a little excitement in agriculture. And you guys are helping with that.
absolutely. Well, Leo, I watched your video and I think you're helping with that too. I mean, that's like you're the poster child for regenerative agriculture now at this point. So
Don't embarrass me. So there's a question there. Can we share the slide decks with recordings when we send them out? Of course, the recording will have the presentations with the slide decks in them, but if any of you or all of you want to share your slide deck as a PDF or a presentation, if you send it to me, so Colin, Leo, Ford, I'll put that in the email out. If you feel like you don't want to share that out, that's fine too. But that is a question for Matthew there. I think that last little bit there, that question, we had this on a previous call, actually, the conversation around generations, the perspectives, and using technology and the adoption of technology in farming and agriculture and ranching. And it's not always a clear cut, like which generation wants to use technology or doesn't, but not that technology is going to replace the management of it, but actually give you the tools, like you said, Leo, to really maybe do it in a different way, in a better way. And I might posit, and see if I go too far here, that it actually kind of democratizes some of it, puts it in your hands more, and maybe in some ways gives you the ability to make some really powerful decisions that maybe otherwise could have been happening sort of, out in the science world or out in the agricultural institutions or companies or something like that. Like, it gives you the power to really see what's going on and make the decisions about your place. Do you think that's going a little too far? Leo, you want to take a stab at that one?
Yeah, I don't think that's going too far, because a lot of these, in my mind, a lot of these operations, they need to scale up. I need to share Forge technology. I need to participate in that, and I need to participate in Colin's programs as well. But it's going to take a team of people. I've got my plate's full now and falling off on the table, and I need a younger person or a next generation person to add to and incorporating these kinds of products. So no, I agree. It's not going to replace anybody. It's just, we need to scale it up and build on it.
Any other thoughts out there? Questions? Well, how about we've just got a couple minutes here for many of you presenters or otherwise. What would you like us to take up next? What would be sort of a natural progression or an interesting topic for us to see if we can find a few folks in Montana to discuss regarding technology and agriculture and innovation?
Well, one of the big time consumers for me to do a better job is range monitoring, or monitoring my resources on the ground. There's the RAP program and those kinds of things, but we need, I can spend days monitoring changes in my soil health and my vegetation composition and those kinds of things. And that's a big, unexciting time killer. It's important, but it's hard to motivate people to participate. And sometimes in an arid landscape I live in, change is glacial. It's slow, and it's hard to motivate yourself to go out there and look at that. So monitoring change is an important product.
Anybody else? Thoughts? Topics?
I think an interesting topic might be to find some of these companies that are working with producers who are doing these regenerative techniques and look into the markets where they're able to, there's not like a certified regenerative program, but see how they're able to take their management practices and have better products and get those to a premium in the market.
Definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Got some ideas there. Well, it's 6 o'clock on the button. Colin, Leo, Ford, thank you all for your presentations and sharing with us today. Thanks all the folks that joined us as well. Like I said, it'll usually take us a few days, so say mid next week, to get this recording put together and sent back out there to all the participants. Presenters, if you want to send me an email with your presentation, if you do want to share your slide deck, then I can put that in that email as well. If you don't need to. I think we'll have to, in the recording, of course, we'll also have the chat. So the contacts and such will be there as well. Any last thoughts before we jump off?
I don't think so. Just thanks for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Bye, guys.
Same. Thanks, Carl.